Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness!
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now a three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! John Morant! Insanity!
You gotta be kidding me. Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. The Grizzlies win their 7th consecutive game. They annihilate the Milwaukee Bucks. They win by 41 points. They scored the third most points they've ever scored in a game with 142 points. Coming into this game, you're facing a very good Bucks team. It feels like an opportunity to test yourself. During the Grizzlies' 6-game win streak, they had not played a very tough schedule. The other games this season against elite teams hadn't gone that great. I mean, early in the year, you played the Mavericks when you thought the Mavs were going to be very, very good. It was the second night of a back-to-back. You got destroyed. You played the Celtics earlier in the year. It was a tough, close, competitive game. It was also the second night of a back-to-back for the Grizzlies. You lost that one. You lost to the Pelicans without Zion Williamson. You beat the Pelicans in another good matchup, but they didn't have Brandon Ingram. Basically, you hadn't played any of the super elite teams and come out on top so far, at least not playing a team that had all its regular guys. You thought this would be a measuring stick. All right, we have 6 straight wins. We're 4-0 on a homestand, but now we got to play a Bucks team. Second best record in the Eastern Conference. Has the best defensive rating in the NBA. And you crushed them. You trounced them. An absolutely dominant statement game from the Memphis Grizzlies. They had Giannis. They had Chris Middleton. They had Brook Lopez. Drew Holiday was out. But they had most all of the regular guys but Drew. Bobby Portis available. Grayson Allen, Javon Carter. They're just the regular guys who play. And they got trucked. Absolute domination. And honestly, a huge statement win for the Grizzlies. They go to 5-0 on the homestand. A 7-game win streak. That is the 5th win streak of at least 7 games in the Taylor Jenkins, Ja Morant era. In the entire grit and grind era, there were 4 total 7-game win streaks. In the 24 years the Memphis Grizzlies existed before Ja Morant got here, there were 8 single season streaks of 7 wins or more. Now there's been 5 in the last 4 years. This was a humiliation of a Bucks team. This was the Grizzlies moving into first place all by themselves in the Western Conference, despite not having Desmond Bane or Jaren Jackson Jr. playing a single minute together this season. A huge, awesome win for the Grizzlies. Ja Morant gets his 7th career regular season triple-double, has 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. He was absolutely, definitely gunning for it in the third quarter. They were running plays to get him assists. They all worked out. Santi Aldama was a big helper. Santi let Ja have a couple of rebounds, and Santi knocked down some threes. Santi might have paid for it because Bobby Portis clawed him, mauled him on a flagrant foul. Honestly, I thought that should have been a flagrant foul penalty too, because of the injuries, the claw marks that Santi picked up. So maybe Bobby wasn't happy with the way the game had turned into a farce. But Ja Morant plays great. Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't even have to play. Jaren Jackson Jr. was in foul trouble the entire game. Logged under 13 minutes. Didn't matter. 41-point win. It was the Grizzlies' 2nd consecutive win by at least 25 points. It's their 3rd win this season by 25 or more. If you remember last season, they led the NBA in the most 25-point wins as a team. So now, since the start of last season, the Grizzlies have 15. That's not even counting the playoff blowout over the Warriors. They have 15 regular season wins since the beginning of last year of 25 or more points. These are not your parents' grit and grind Grizzlies. These are a very new breed, high octane offense and defense. Because of this statistical domination, it really juiced all the stats for the year. The Grizzlies are up to second in net rating on the season on cleaning the glass, which throws out garbage time, which means they threw out the entire fourth quarter of this one. And the Grizzlies got up by 50. They led wire to wire. Biggest lead was 50. Over the past 2 weeks, which is the Grizzlies' 7-game win streak, their team net rating is plus 20.5. Just their total overall net rating as a team last 2 weeks, plus 20.5. They are the only team in the NBA right now that's top 5 in offense and defense. They're currently 5th in offense, and they have the 3rd best defensive rating in the NBA over the entire season. Because of the way the Western Conference is shaken out, because of this breaking news of Steph Curry being out for a couple of weeks, the Grizzlies are well poised to have the best record in the Western Conference. Like, they are competing for the 1 seed. There is no question. Did I predict they'd be in first place 28 games into the season? No. I don't know if anyone did. This is an awesome result. It's a surprising first 28 games when you consider the full context. Like, we didn't know how long Jaren was going to be out to start the year. We obviously didn't know that Desmond Bane would miss a bunch of time. The Grizzlies now winning 7 straight games with no Desmond Bane. Absolutely fantastic. Now, we do have to point out this is the upswing probably. Yes, this was a game against a very, very good team, and you acquitted yourself nicely. I think they were very, very focused on, hey, we're going to test ourselves. And they arguably played, one of the best games of the season. I mean, definitely one of the best games of the season, one of the best games you'll ever see. They were up by 29 points at halftime. Playing the team that had the number 1 defense, they scored 70 on them in the first half. It was the 3rd largest halftime lead the Grizzlies have ever had. The third quarter, did they have a letdown? Not in the slightest. They scored 47 points in the third quarter. That's the 2nd most points ever scored in a quarter in Grizzlies franchise history. The record is that 55-point quarter against the Pelicans from the last game of last year. I don't think that's ever getting touched. I mean, surely it'll get, touched at some point, but 55 points is absurd in a quarter. They dropped 47 on the Bucks. The Bucks had nothing. The Bucks were outscored by 29 points when Giannis Antetokounmpo was on the court. Dylan Brooks obliterated Chris Middleton. I am a huge Chris Middleton fan. Been podcasting about him forever over on Fast Break Breakfast. Dylan Brooks embarrassed him. Chris finished 1 for 12. It was a weird game. Chris picked up a flagrant foul 2 minutes into the game, tackling Dylan Brooks. After the game, Dylan Brooks, talked a little smack about it. Basically said Chris Middleton's not a guy who likes any kind of contact. Saying he threw Chris off of his game. The Grizzlies outshot the Bucks 55% as a team for the Grizzlies to 37% for the Bucks. You remember the previous game? The Grizzlies outshot the Hawks 60% to 35. So here's a super weird stat. That's 2 consecutive games where the Grizzlies had at least a field goal percentage 17 percentage points better than their opponent. They've never ever done that before in their franchise history. The only team in NBA history to have 3 consecutive games with a field goal percentage 17 percentage points better than their opponent is the 2010 Heat. The old Heatles had a 3-game streak. The Grizzlies posted their 4th consecutive 30-assist game. As you know, they are virtually unbeatable when posting 30 or more assists. The franchise record is 5 straight games of 30 or more assists. That happened in the first year of Ja Morant, 2019-2020 season. This Grizzlies team is one of the dominant teams in the NBA. There's no question. They are going to test themselves, but what looked like a very challenging road trip. And again, they were given a great opportunity to find their rhythm at home. Lots of home games, well spaced out. They came into this Bucks game with 2 days of rest. So the schedule will not be as well set up. And we said it in the preseason. If you looked at the Grizzlies schedule, it wasn't very hard until mid to late December. It was supposed to start. The difficult schedule was supposed to start on Thursday against the Bucks. Maybe it won't shake out that way. You play at the Thunder next, you're going to be favored. Then you have that tough 3-game stretch on national TV at Nuggets, at Suns, at Warriors. Warriors not going to have Steph Curry. Maybe the Grizzlies won't be favored in all those games, but you're not going to be surprised if they win them. I mean, going 3-0 is probably not going to happen. But all of a sudden, even people who were skeptical, thinking in the regular season, not having depth, it would cost them. That's not the case right now. Right now, everyone's locked in. Tyus Jones is playing at a career best. Tyus had 16 points in this one, raising his career high points per game for the season up to 10.8 points per game. That's 2 points higher than it was last year. Brandon Clark had a second consecutive game where he was perfect from the field. In this Grizzlies 7-game win streak, his field goal percentage is 79.2%. Basically, each game he plays, he sets a new record for the highest Grizzlies field goal percentage over any X game span. In the last 4 games, Brandon Clark is 26 for 29 on his field goal attempts. That is 89.7%. I mean, Dylan Brooks, in that way that he thoroughly outplayed Chris Middleton, I mean, he had 18 points, 4 assists. Dylan's averaging a career high 3 assists per game. It's modest, but we'll take it. We're excited about it. Made half of his field goal attempts, 7 for 14. Doesn't even matter if Jaren Jackson Jr. played 13 minutes. The Grizzlies just smoked him. Up and down the roster, a thorough beatdown. Do I enjoy beating Grayson Allen when he comes back to play? Absolutely. This is Grayson Allen's second game against the Grizzlies since being traded. He has 2 starts against the Grizzlies, 2 losses. In those starts, he's averaging 5.5 points per game. 1 out of 5 threes in a total of 51 minutes. Do I enjoy that? I do. In fact, I do. Steven Adams had a season-high 5 blocks. 10 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. I mean, Roddy had 10 big points in the first half. Finishes with 15 and 7 boards. Roddy playing much better. His 3-point shot has honestly abandoned him. Doesn't really feel like it because of the team success. You don't focus on these little minute details, I guess. During this 7-game win streak, he's only making 25% of his 3-pointers. But he's absolutely on fire on his 2-pointers, making almost all of them. I mean, this is when we talk about what our dreams for the Grizzlies are and talk about them as like a system team, similar to the Spurs, where you can go 15 years and you win 55 games basically every year. That's what it feels like the Grizzlies are approaching. The Ringer came out with its top 100 player rank list, where they try to rank the top 100 players in the NBA. These things are just made for content. It's impossible to rank NBA players. The Grizzlies were not well represented on the list. But the Grizzlies, maybe people would argue, maybe the people who made the list at the Ringer would argue, they are greater than the sum of their parts. Now, clearly they have elite top-line talent. Ja Morant, first-team All-NBA type of guy. It's going to be in consideration for that. But, they don't have necessarily the respect of the guys outside of their top few. Like just on that ringer list, John Morant was listed as the 10th best player in the NBA, which is fine. I mean, reasonable people can rank the top however many players in the NBA, all different number of ways. It's not an insult or a slight to be the 10th best player in basketball. They put Bane at 31, which honestly, that's a lot of respect. So Bane's not playing. Jaren's down at 52. Now, if Jaren keeps playing like he's been playing, he's going to fly up that chart. It's going to be a silly ranking. Like Steven Adams and Dylan Brooks weren't ranked on this list. I think they should have been. And again, it's more like tiers. Once you get to like player number 70 or 80, there are 50 players you could probably include, maybe even more. But if I wanted to circle guys, I see like Ivica Zubac on there. I see Jonas Valanciunas clocking in the 90s. And I'm like, we don't think Steven Adams is better than that? We don't think Steven Adams' impact on winning is better than that? I think Clint Capella was like in the 70s. You don't think the Hawks would be better with Steven Adams over Clint Capella? Steven Adams has, in my mind, a massive impact on winning. Steven Adams is averaging a career high in rebounds this year. Steven Adams is setting screens and freeing up guys and just making smart headsy plays. He's winning every jump ball situation he gets usually. Like, you don't think the Clippers would be better with Dylan Brooks instead of having Norm Powell? Norm Powell clocked in on that ringer list. People don't know what to do with Dylan Brooks. Grizzlies fans don't know what to do with Dylan Brooks. Personally, I'm a big fan. I think he has a massive impact on winning. And he certainly did in this game. Fantastic game. We all knew. I didn't hear a single Grizzlies fan or Grizzlies podcaster in the offseason say this Grizzlies team wouldn't be one of the best teams in the West when healthy. Everyone thought that. I will say, while even acknowledging this might be an aberration, this is an upswing where a perfect convergence of events of having a spaced out schedule with a rested team that got a bunch of easy opponents and then got ramped up to play the hard one, you get a perfect result. And once you go on the road, it might get a little bit tougher. And the Grizzlies are 13-2 at home. Massive advantage right there. But I got to say, I am surprised with how good they've looked, even without Desmond Bane. I kind of thought they would need Desmond Bane and Jaren to perform at this level. Happy to be wrong about that. Hopefully the blowouts keep coming because there is something special. When you blow teams out this many times over a 2-year span, it feels like college basketball. You wouldn't think you have such a talent advantage. Just the way the Grizzlies are functioning as a team, the way they're getting these easy buckets on missed free throws, on made free throws. You saw Zaire Williams. So Zaire Williams, once again, they're clearly bringing him along slowly. He didn't play a lot of minutes in the first half. But in the second quarter, when he was in there, you saw him getting transition opportunities just from sprinting. Not in your normal turnover. Like, it wasn't a turnover situation. He would sprint after a made free throw and end up getting a layup. Zaire got a lot of garbage time minutes where he finally made a three-pointer. He missed his first 13 three-pointers of the season. So he got a lot of garbage time minutes, hopefully getting his sea legs underneath him. He'll be ready to contribute in a bigger way later in the year. But up and down the roster, you have a cohesion. You have a unification of vision, a team that's defending so well right now. And when the offense starts clicking, I mean, they're virtually unbeatable. That's why we read off those stats. What is it, 43-1 or 44-1 now? I can't remember. I didn't write it down. When the Grizzlies scored at least 120 points over the past 2 seasons. I mean, John Conchar playing well, filling in. Santi Aldama knocked down 2 more three-pointers. Had a big old dunk in addition to getting scratched up by Bobby Portis. He extended the gap between his home and road splits. Just a great game from everybody. How much fun was that? Anyways, I appreciate you listening to this episode, being a Grits and Grinds listener. Thanks to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hope everybody is having a Happy holiday season. I'm going to try to maintain the recording schedule as best I can, but we will see. I'm going to play it by ear as far as when the Grits and Grinds episodes are going to be coming out. Just make sure you're subscribed both in your podcast player and on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. Anyways, hope you guys are having a great Friday. I will talk to you soon. Go Grizz.